10.2a, factor trinomials, reverse FOIL. Okay, so remember in the last unit when we were talking about foiling, when we had two binomials and we were multiplying them together, we did firsts, outsides, insides, and lasts. And so down here in our notes, we could say that the first terms multiply to be, well, hold on, let me go back. I didn't finish my thought. So if I have A times C, that's my first term. And then if I have A times D, that's my second term. Then I have B times C as my third term. And I have B times D as my last one. And usually these two in the center, we would combine together, right? Because they would have something in common, typically only a single variable, just 2x plus 4x or something like that. We would combine those together. So our first, right, it multiplies to AC. And our lasts, first, outside, inside, last is, our last terms are, they multiply to be BD, and then the outsides and the insides, oops, that's not how you spell inside. They must add to become that middle term. And what the other videos say to you is that the way they're going to show you how to do this takes some trial and error. They call it the trial and error method. And I don't like that. We've just spent some time in the previous section of this unit working on grouping. We can use grouping to reverse FOIL, and it makes life so much easier. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to, this may take some practice. I think it really kind of takes some practice. And we are going to use grouping plus one extra step. And so we'll kind of walk through that. So if you see the other videos, that's great. Maybe the way that they show you will make sense to you. It's never made sense to me. And I was actually told about this way to solve reverse FOIL problems, trinomials, by a student probably a year ago. And it has changed my life because grouping, I really like the grouping. And I think that you will like it too. Okay, I'm going to erase all of this because I want to give us enough room to kind of go through all of our steps. So here we go. So remember this number in the center, I have to like break that up somehow, because when it was just two binomials and we FOILed it out, that 11 had to come from somewhere. So that's where I'm going to start. And the way that I'm going to start to figure out what that 11 is or where it came from, I'm going to take this 3 and this 10 and I'm going to multiply them. So 3 times 10 is 30. And then I'm going to think to myself, okay, what are some factors that times each other equal 30? Well, we just did 10 and 3, right? But what else is there? Probably not 1 and 30. It might be 15 times 2, but it could also be 6 times 5, right? So now I'm going to look at these and I'm going to think to myself, is there anything here that when I add or subtract them, they're going to equal 11? Okay, so 10 and 3. If I add those, I get 13. If I subtract them, I get 7. 10 minus 3 is 7. So I know it's not that one. How about 15 and 2? 15 plus 2 gives me 17. 15 minus 2 gives me 13. It's not that one. But look at the 6 and the 5. 6 plus 5 gives me 11, right? So I know that these are my dudes, okay? So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to write that 3x squared from right here. And then I'm going to leave myself a bunch of room and I'm going to write 10. And then in the center, instead of having 11x, I'm going to say plus 6x plus 5x. Because if I add 6x plus 5x, aren't I going to get 11x? I am, right? And now, if I take this looks very much like a 4-term polynomial, and I can group those up and do some GCF factoring, just like we were doing. 3x squared plus 6x. Okay, 3x squared plus 6x. I'm going to take out 3x from both of those. So I'm left with x, 6x, or 6 divided by 3 is 2. And then over here, 5x plus 10. I'm going to take 5 out of both of those. Positive 5 there. And look at that. I'm left with x plus 2. So now I'm going to say x plus 2 over here. I'm going to factor that binomial, or yeah, it's a binomial. Factor that binomial out. And then my second parenthesis is going to be everything that's left, that 3x plus 5. So it's just like what we were doing with one extra step. I like this better. You decide though, right? Let's look at another example, okay? So now I have 12x squared plus 16x minus 3. Again, I need to figure out where that 16x came from. So I'm going to take that 12 and I'm going to take the minus 3 times those together. That's going to get me a negative 36. And the reason for that is that that negative sign is going to remind me that I'm probably, like, there's going to be some subtraction involved. And so I just want to think about that. I want to make sure that I consider that there might be some subtraction. And so let's think about what goes into 36. There's, well, 6 times 6. There's 4 times 9. Oop. There's 3 times 12. And, oh, 2 times 18. Okay. So if I add 6 plus 6, I get 12, which is not 16. Remember, this is what I'm looking for. If I subtract them, I get 0. So it's not that one. 9 plus 4 is 13. So that's not 16 either. If I subtract them, they're going to get smaller. 12 plus 3 is 15. Oh, that is close. That is so close, but it's still not going to work for us. 12 minus 3 is 9. That's nowhere near 16, but look at this one. 12 minus 2 gives me 16. So I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to write that 12x squared, because that was just from up here. He comes straight down. I'm going to write the negative 3 over here. That's, you know, comes down from there. Write that negative 3 right there. And then I'm going to write that 16 right there. in using this 2 and this 18. So what did I say? I said it was 18 minus 2. Doesn't 18x minus 2x give me 16x? It totally does. So now, again, I can break those guys apart into 2 different groups, group them into 2 sets of 2 terms, and then I can go to work. 12x squared plus 18x. 12 and 18, 6 can go into both of those, and I can also take x out of both. 12 divided by 6 gives me 2. X squared divided by x gives me x. 18 divided by 6 gives me 3. And then the x divided by x is just 1. So then now I can come over here. So I have negative 2x minus 3. There's nothing that's going to factor out of those guys. So what I'm going to pull out is just a negative 1, because then that leaves me, look at that, with 2x plus 3, which is the same in both places. It's so awesome. So I'm going to write that 2x plus 3, that factors those guys out of that big long thing that I have. And then in the second parenthesis, I'm just going to write my second binomial with everything that's remaining, the 6x minus 1. So there we go. We can use grouping to reverse FOIL trinomials. And our first step, remember, we're going to turn them back into a 4-term polynomial, because then we can break them apart and use grouping to solve in a way that I think is much easier than doing a bunch of trial and error. So let me know how it goes.